Hello friends, it's Kat from Meow Meow Kapow. I don't know if you guys know this about me or not because I feel like I'm definitely super subtle and even remotely able to hide it, but I'm a little bit weird. I can't help it, I just like weird things. Like, for instance, the smell of skunks. Yep. I lived for a few years in a neighborhood that had a lot of skunks in the surrounding woods, and so now, every time I catch a whiff of that sweet, sweet, funky smell in the air, it brings back a lot of good memories. But I'm getting ahead of myself here. If you're new to the Animal Artists Collective, there's a whole bunch of information down in the doobly-doo about us, as well as where you can purchase this rockin' bag, and what charity I'll be donating 50% of the proceeds to. It's also where you can find the videos from our other members, including this month's guest artist, Mel Mariposa from Visual Mind. Give my fellow AACers some love, eh? The theme this time is temperate forests, and there are some super cool animals that the other artists chose to make pieces for, including bats. I really love bats. And if you want to vote on our next theme or find out more about how to unofficially participate with us, head to the AAC Facebook page. Anyway, back to skunks. Many moons ago, I used to run a crafting company with my youngest sister, and we used to make all sorts of wacky bags, some of which were based on animals, and one of which has made an appearance in quite a few of my videos. So even though up to this point most of us in the AAC have done drawings or paintings or pyrography of our animals, I got the itch to sew something. Why not a purse? And why not a skunk purse? I'm not going to walk you through how to make this because it took about 35 to 40 hours of time, especially because I did some embroidery and I'm pretty slow at embroidery still. But I do want to talk to you about skunks while this bag unfolds. Just like with my raccoons piece from our urban animals theme, I learned a lot while researching and felt it was silly to be so uneducated about an animal I've spent my life within spitting distance of. Therefore, again, I'll be supporting the Schuylkill Center for Environmental Education since wildlife education really is important. For instance, I learned that skunks are immune to snake venom. That's a pretty cool trick, and something I think plenty of us would like to have as an ability. They're known to eat rattlesnakes sometimes, since they pretty much have nothing to fear from a danger noodle if its venom is powerless. I guess maybe just the pain from a bite or the potential to get strangled, but clearly, skunks are hardcore. Skunks also eat wasps. Like, just go up to a hive and swat at it to get some tasty spicy flies fresh from the dispenser, which, to me, again, seems like something pretty hardcore. There's also a couple of different breeds of skunk, such as the spotted skunk, whose black and white fur is in a spot-like pattern rather than the striped pattern we're usually used to, and the hognose skunk, which usually has quite a large pinkish nose meant for rooting around in the ground and sniffing out tasty grubs. The purse I'm making is based on the hognose skunk because I like its cute pink nosy. But it still has those characteristic and distinct double white stripes going down its back, unlike some species, such as the badger skunk, that usually just has one solid white strip covering its entire back. I genuinely didn't even know that there were different patterns of skunk fur before this, but they're all pretty cute. Actually, skunks are really docile creatures that like to just go about their business and eat, sleep, mate without really concerning themselves with humans. They're kind of like deer in that deer are everywhere, but for their own safety, they'd prefer to stay out of the way of humankind and tend to try and escape when spotted. Of course, though, skunks are most known for their stinky, smelly spray, which is why all skunks should be reported to animal control and promptly removed, right? No, definitely not. Unfortunately, because most people fear that wild animals have rabies, and they also fear from skunks that they'll be sprayed, there are rumors online that sometimes when animal control encounters a skunk, they'll inject the skunk with chemical solvents like acetone and slowly kill it painfully and inhumanely. Or they'll drown them. I don't know the validity of these claims, but still. Personally, if I was calling animal control because I was afraid of an animal and then watched it be killed in front of me as a result of having made that call rather than relocated to another suitable environment, I would be absolutely grief-stricken. To be clear, if you genuinely suspect that a skunk has rabies, then calling animal control is a good option for the safety of both yourself and the other critters in your neighborhood. But if you just see a skunk going about its business or making itself a little nest under your deck for protection in the winter, you have nothing to worry about. Mostly, like I said, skunks prefer to be left alone. If you happen to come across one, don't panic. It's not going to spray you. If you meet a spotted skunk, it's more likely you'll see it do a handstand than be the victim of its smelly bum. Yes, I'm serious, look it up. Spotted skunks do handstands when they're scared. All you really need to do to stay safe is just walk away. Skunks will start by stamping their feet and digging at the ground and throwing a little temper tantrum if they're scared, and they'll really only turn and spray you if they feel completely and totally trapped. So, if you see a skunk and it's doing a little dance, just walk away, problem solved. But if you do find yourself or your pet stinking to the high heavens due to a bit more skunk exposure than you'd meant to have, one way to neutralize the enzymes in a skunk spray is with vinegar, baking soda, and dish soap mixed together. Give yourself or your pet a bath in those and it should remove the smell altogether. Though peroxide is even more effective than the vinegar if you have some, but it does run the risk of bleaching whatever it comes in contact with. I also became curious about how skunks produce their trademark spray, and was surprised to find that it's the result of the contents of 2 separate glands being released simultaneously. There are 7 key components in a skunk spray, and I'm not even going to pretend to know how to pronounce them, but they can basically be broken down into 2 groups of thiols or acetate derivatives of thiols. I didn't know what a thiol was before this, but it's basically just an organic sulfur compound as far as I can understand. So, skunks have 2 glands on their butts that are chock full of sulfur stuff, which are harmless when contained separately, but explode with horribleness when combined. I could swear there's a story I read somewhere about dragons producing their fire breath by also releasing 2 separate gland contents at the same time, causing them to ignite. Obviously, this means that skunks are secretly stinky fart dragons. Also, it turns out that the chemical breakdown for the spray each of the different breeds of skunk I've mentioned so far is technically different, which in itself is unexpected and fascinating. Apparently, there's a lot to learn about skunks, and we could probably dive pretty deep on this one if we wanted to, but I'm gonna divert to the bag I'm sewing instead. It's been a long time since I've sewn anything substantial, but especially since I've made a purse. My sister and I used to joke all the time that I was the brains and she was the brawn because I was always better at figuring out how the shapes were supposed to fit together, and she was the one that was actually good at using the sewing machine. But the whole time I was working on this purse, I seriously doubted myself. I'd check and double check and triple check to make sure things had been pinned together correctly before actually sewing them together, and even then, I'd still worry that something would end up being inside out. Because you have to have some serious faith, but also some serious planning when it comes to a piece you're going to flip inside out. It basically always looks like a hot mess right before it's finished. For instance, the pink nose looked really just way too massive while the embroidery was being done to both securely attach it and give the nostrils swirls, but after the actual construction of the bag was completed, it looked exactly as I'd planned. There are also some fun additions that worked out really well, like the embroidered toe beans are basically the cutest thing ever, and the big, plushy, fluffy, striped tail is so soft and cuddly and perfect. Craft fur is usually kind of difficult to work with, so I took extra care to hand sew the white stripes on and make sure they were fully secured, and took extra care to make sure the black craft fur was all going in the same direction, even after it was flipped inside out. This might seem like an obvious thing, but there was actually almost a mishap with the tail fur direction. There's also a secret inside pocket that I thought would be both hilarious and cute if it was made with flower pattern fabric, given that skunks and flowers usually aren't thought of together unless you're watching Bambi. This is probably one of my favorite details for the bag, and I took some extra time to do some decorative stitching along the opening to both keep the pocket flap but also make it look nice. The main opening of the purse itself is huge for such a small looking bag. It easily holds 12 6-inch by 4-inch watercolor pads as well as 3 full-size paperback novels. Because all of the materials used are soft and slightly stretchy, this is a bag that can become one of those Mary Poppins type things where you just seem to be able to hold an infinite amount of stuff inside. Lastly, let's talk about the strap. My grandmother has always called us her delicate flowers, but my grandmother is about 40 times more hilarious and goofy than I am, so she means it in a very sarcastic way, and I love the woman madly. Essentially, I'm a hot mess, and even if you think something can't be broken, I will very quickly find a way to accidentally do so. Delicate? Not even in the slightest. So, historically, all bags that I have purchased have had their straps broken pretty easily, which is why when my sister and I started making our own bags, we always took extra care to ensure that the straps were super secure. In fact, I was mugged once while using one of the bags that I had made myself, and when the mugger tried to rip off of me, quite forcibly, the bag that I was wearing crossbody style, they ended up needing to give up after a few violent tugs and ran away. I still have that bag to this day, and its strap is still perfectly intact. We'd actually improved our method for strap connection after that particular bag, so the strap on the skunk purse is extra secure and comfortable. It was a lot of fun getting to reconnect with my sewing skills after neglecting them for so long. I blame Annika Victoria, whose channel I found while learning about embroidery and inspired me to bring out my sewing machine once again. This purse, like many of the others I've made, is what I'd like to classify as weird, cute, and slightly hideous. So to me, it's perfect, but what do you think? Does it walk the line of cute and creepy well enough? I sure hope so, because I'd love to be able to send a donation to the Schuylkill Center. I also have no plans to make another one of these anytime soon, so this is your chance to not only own an original piece, but a very limited edition piece. I'd like to know what you think about skunks, because to me, I think they're super cute, and like I said before, I find their scent nostalgic. I'm sure I wouldn't like being sprayed any more than anyone else, but I do enjoy the scent from a distance, like a weirdo. And if you have any stories about skunk encounters, I'd love to hear about them. I've only ever actually seen one in person once, while I was parking my car in the middle of the night. It was just minding its business in the grass nearby, so I stayed and watched it until it wandered off. Also, please consider giving our videos and channels a like and subscribe, and sharing the Animal Artists Collective playlist. We're genuinely trying to make change in the world the best we know how, and your support is seriously so invaluable. Thank you so much. Until I see you next time, I wish you peace, love, and secret flower pockets. Bye!